People move to the cities because that's where the jobs, the money, and other opportunities are. But the planet's metropolises are being stretched to their limits. More than half the world's population live in cities, and by 2050, this figure will rise to 2/3. That's more than 6 billion people. Over the next 40 years, cities will gobble up natural habitats as the area covered by them triples. More people means more transport, more buildings, more waste, more pollution, and more slums. Many of those moving to cities are rural poor. They join the 1.6 billion people living without adequate shelter. It's vital that we find sustainable ways to deal with this rapid urbanization.
I'm Juliana Schatz in Colombia, where plastic waste is constructing new homes for the poor and the vulnerable.
And I'm Russell Beard in Singapore, where one metropolis is striving for environmental sustainability in the face of rapid urbanization.
Muchas gracias. Que estés muy bien. Over 300 million tons of plastic is produced each year. With only a fraction of it being recycled, much of it ends up in landfills or polluting urban living environments, waterways, and oceans. In Colombia, tons of plastic waste is being diverted into the building blocks of a new environmental housing solution.
Colombia's capital city of Bogotá is home to 8 million people, and it is estimated that 650 tons of plastic is thrown away every single day. I have come to meet Oscar Mendez, an architect and founder of a new enterprise for environmental change called Conceptos Plásticos. He has brought me to an informal housing settlement on the outskirts of town to show me firsthand the problems faced here and across Latin America.
Lo que podemos ver aquí, que o sea, todo lo que puedes ver es plástico y va a durar acá 400 o 500 años. 75% of plastic in packaging is single use.
When you see all of this plastic on the ground, do you see potential?
Yes, a lot of potential. We can transform all this plastic.
In order for Oscar's enterprise to succeed, though, he's going to need a lot of plastic. Small-scale informal recycling has been a long-standing trade in Colombia, with 40,000 trucks on the streets of Bogotá collecting conventional reusable waste such as scrap metal and plastic bottles.
So we're in a bodega right now where the recyclers come to bring their plastics and other recyclable products, and they weigh them here so that they can then be paid. Right now we're looking for Paulino. He's the lead recycler. He's organized all of the recyclers in this area.
Over recent years, government support has allowed people like Paulino the opportunity to upscale and legitimize the industry, creating recycling centers like this one all over the city.
Digamos unos 5 años atrás, estaban organizados que comienzan así reciclando por las calles, en carreticas, en zorros, estaban reciclando.
The ongoing challenge for Paulino and his team is getting the word out.
La fuente para nosotros son las casas. Sí, y comenzamos a incentivar a la gente desde ahí, la enseñamos, le explicamos. Siento que de pronto a veces nos hace falta como que le diera como un poquito más de como anuncios, como que se dice, más de publicidad.
Ruta de reciclaje, programa basura cero, reciclaje, ruta de reciclaje.
It's a way of annoying people until they recycle.
Bueno, yo anteriormente era madre comunitaria, entonces ahí aprendimos. Esperamos que la ciudadanía tome más conciencia y comencemos todos a reciclar.
Queremos ayudar al medio ambiente. Eso es lo primero. Tratar de sacar el reciclaje, que no solamente sea basura, sí, que también tenga recuperación. Digamos, son los materiales que estamos sacando para conceptos plásticos.
Conceptos Plásticos is Oscar Mendez's new venture, which is making good use of this waste plastic. I head to the company headquarters to meet up with him again.
Welcome to our factory, Conceptos Plásticos.
Thank you.
This is where we take all the plastic from Paulino and make the transformation.
Over the past few years, Oscar and his team have been refining this waste to make durable building blocks. Different types of plastic are first ground separately: household plastic waste, battery packaging, and electrical waste such as old computers and TVs.
So if you can see, like, this comes straight from the factory. Look, these haven't even been used. It's like a giant blender. What would happen to this packaging if you weren't recycling it?
So all the packaging post-consumer, for sure, is going to landfill.
Now we've got all the ingredients. Now the chef will go to work and put it together.
He's the chef.
Oh, he is. I'm sorry. Not Oscar. This is the chef. They won't show us exactly the proportions because it's a secret recipe.
The ground plastics are mixed together, heated, and then compressed into brick-shaped molds.
Tell me a little bit about the temperature. How hot are these plastics?
We just get the melting point. Depends on the mix, depends on the plastic. It's going between 200 and 240 degrees.
It is very important that the temperature is kept at melting point so as not to burn the plastic and release toxic gases.
So let's check this out. Let's look at it. It looks like cement almost. Yeah. Not as heavy, but it's sturdy. I wonder what that was. Yes. Or that, or that.
Sometimes we have the cell phones numbers. We have one number 5, one number 4.
So now that we have all of these bricks, what kind of uses do you have for them?
Imagine wood, you can make the same thing with this kind of material.
And where are these going?
These bricks are going to Cali, and you will see what we're going to do with them.
Recognized globally as the world capital for salsa dancing, the city of Cali, 400 kilometers west of Bogotá, is one of great social divide, with 6% of the land area occupied by slums housing 40,000 people.
Yo, esta es mi vida, vida complicada. Estamos en la imba, pero aquí no pasa nada. Estamos sobreviviendo a esta emboscada. Hoy estamos aquí, pero mañana esto se acaba. Oye, para mi gente de Cali.
We've come to Envallado, a neighborhood in the east of Cali, one of the city's most deprived areas.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Eufemia.
Eufemia, esta es tu casa.
Esta es de mí.
Eufemia leads us upstairs to catch up with Oscar and his bricks.
Wow, oh my goodness. The bricks we just saw in the factory, they're actually constructing into a house for someone who lives here in the community. Oscar, the last time I saw you, we were in Bogotá at the plant. We were building these things. Now we're here and building. It's amazing. Tell me a little bit about what stage you're at.
Right now we are in the kitchen.
Aha, where many meals will be cooked, I'm sure.
Yes, this is the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
This is the bedroom.
This house cost $5,000 and has been microfinanced by the community for Eufemia, whose son lives in the apartment below.
Pues mi mamá aquí tenía una pieza, pues no estaba en buenas condiciones.
Ajá. Sí, ¿y qué tal de la construcción? Pues es fácil.
Claro.
¿Cómo es?
Si usted gusta,
sí.
pega uno y eso es facilito.
Bueno. It's literally like life-size Lego.
Oscar's hope is that this project will generate interest in the community and encourage future collaborations.
Mira, estamos construyendo una casa hecha de ladrillos que son hechos de plástico reciclado. De roca. Looks like rock to them.
Eso con el megáfono y me llamó la atención, me vine y aquí estoy.
Para mí también yo necesito para mi tercer piso.
This I just can't get over. The holes for the electrical outlets and the plumbing. Wire the cable down in and they'll have electricity. So, check it out. It's actually a room now. It's a kitchen.
Este es un closet.
He's telling me this is where the closet's gonna be.
La cama va a ir aquí.
With the television on top, if you can imagine it. So all we've got left is the roof and some doors. So we're pretty close. How much plastic is in this house?
In this house we use 5 tons. Sin compactar ese plástico, puede llegar a ser más o menos del tamaño de un contenedor de 40 pies.
Está bien, muy bonito. Casa. Pero yo creía que era de esos plásticos que uno recoge.
In just under 2 days, the house is almost complete. The plan is that a family of 4 will be able to put together their own home in less than 5 days.
Sabemos lo que va a pasar acá en este barrio dentro de unos meses, entonces ese tipo de comentarios nos dan todavía más ánimo.
Conceptos Plásticos have already helped to house 42 families displaced by conflict in the town of Guapi, recycling 120 tons of plastic in the process.
Tell me a little bit about the magnitude of impact that this project can have.
If we use just 2% the waste plastic in the world, we can change the life of millions of people. We can finish the housing shortage in Latin America in just 10 years.
That's an enormous number and a huge impact.
We have to start. We have to start step by step.
Alternative, sustainable building materials are being developed globally. Bamboo is being treated and used for construction in countries including Ethiopia, Indonesia, and here in Nepal. With many strains 10 times stronger than steel and a rapid growth cycle of 4 to 5 years, bamboo is one of the most eco-friendly building materials on the planet. In the Middle East, 2 engineering graduates in Gaza have created an environmentally friendly brick called green cake. This uses coal and wood ash as a filler instead of sand, making use of waste that would otherwise be buried in the ground. And in Guatemala, one non-profit has built a school using natural resources and rubbish that would normally pile in landfills. The organisation's made a cistern out of old tyres, capable of holding thousands of gallons of rainwater. Materials like these are not only paving the way for a greener urban sprawl, they're redefining the spaces we inhabit.
Singapore is a low-lying island and city-state. 80% of its population live in high-rise public housing, resulting in one of the highest population densities in the world. Challenges from rapid urbanization, sea level rise, and an increasingly chaotic climate is forcing planners and architects and policymakers to respond to critical questions about how cities of the future will cope with growing demand. Despite the growing pressure on space, Singapore has been dubbed Asia's greenest city, so I've come here to meet some of the people who are helping it earn that title. My first stop is the Park Royal Hotel, which boasts 15,000 square meters of greenery and was completed in 2013 by award-winning architect Richard Hassel.
The Earth now in almost every way is being formed by human activity. So for us as architects, we feel like it's something within our control to suggest ways that building projects can also play a much stronger role in this stewardship of the Earth. When you look at like Google Earth or images from space, cities are really deserts. You know, you see a very bright, white, shiny area surrounded by dark vegetation. If people build buildings like this, you would no longer see that. You would see the vegetation layer covering the city as well.
The Singaporean government awarded Park Royal its coveted Platinum Green Mark, the nation's highest environmental certification. It's part of a wider scheme to promote environmentally friendly buildings and investment into green city solutions. To understand more about why this city is the greenest in Asia, I want to see what's happening at the grassroots. I've heard about a non-profit across town that's providing environmental education and supporting a growing eco-community. I've come to meet the founder, Lai Hock.
Welcome, man. I came here trying to get people to go back to basic. And I thought as a result of that, with urbanization, globalization, and digitization, that we become disconnected. So I was trying to create, using a space to connect back people and to bring back the spirit of the community. And it's very strange for a country like Singapore because we're so top-down. And that's why my name is called GroundUp Initiative.
The GroundUp Initiative started in 2009 and secured a piece of land to provide environmental education for people of all ages. It now runs several workshops and seminars, building a community of environmentally engaged citizens.
Like if you just for a moment forgot that we're in the middle of Singapore, they're just knocking down your door, aren't they?
In fact, they want to build on this land, that too. And I told the government to give me a chance to prove that I think Singapore needs a different kind of space. 50% of the world population now live in cities. And with 70% will live out of 9.3 billion or 9.5 billion in a 30 years' time. What do you think will become? Where is the food coming from? Who wants to work on the land? Who will clean the rubbish for you? All these are environmental issues.
In the GroundUp Initiative gardens, I meet Choi Fen and Ka Hui, volunteers who've come along to get their hands dirty.
Why do you come here?
Doing farming, in a way, get me more connected with what we are actually doing every day, because when we eat food, we know exactly where they come from. And in Singapore, I realized also people don't appreciate food because maybe to the kids, they have never seen this, how the fruit is grown. Maybe they thought it's just from the supermarket.
Places like this is very good because it makes us go back to the basics. What keeps us surviving, what makes us thrive. And it's not really about having money, it's not really about having all the tech stuff, but really being able to understand that you are just a part of this bigger ecosystem.
Seeing how things are grown, for example, it makes me start to ask a lot of other questions, like where things come from. So if I use a paper, I start to think, so where is it from? And if I throw it away, where is it going?
Ka Hui is committed to reducing her waste to almost zero. We go back to her flat to see how she's getting on.
This is the last place that you would expect to see a little permaculture garden going on in somebody's front room.
I just started this journey barely a year ago. So a lot of things to me are experiments.
You are here on your own, you're experimenting with all this. Are you kind of creating a network here? Because you can't be the only person in Singapore thinking like this.
Yeah,
right?
When I started the groups on Facebook, it was sometimes frustrating because I seem to be the only person who keep posting. But now I think it's at least 3,500, and it's quite surprising. I think when we see individuals taking just a small action, to me is very encouraging because they start to take this ownership.
Ka Hui and the Journey to Zero Waste community still have a long way to go. Last year, Singapore's 5.5 million population ditched over 7.5 million tonnes of waste. That's 1.5 tonnes per person. But momentum is building and similar grassroots projects are sprouting up throughout the city.
So we met Choi Fen earlier at the GroundUp Initiative, and she's invited us to come across town and have a look at her own community garden. How are you? So this is your project?
Yeah. My neighbors who come and spend time here in the garden actually doing stuff. They are directors, they are CEOs, lawyers.
Is that edamame? Is that soy? I've never seen soybeans grow before.
I feel that a lot of the urban spaces in Singapore should not be horticulture landscape, it should be foodscape. And how can we truly make Singapore maybe a city in a food garden? Why does it need to just be a small one, that only serves a few people in the community? Why not the larger community?
Over 80% of the food consumed in Singapore is imported, so the Ministry of National Development is investing heavily in boosting food production on the island. I've arranged to meet Jack Ng, an engineer turned food producer who's taking commercial-scale urban farming to the next level.
Well, I can say I've never seen a farm like this before.
Yes, we are first in the world.
First in the world?
Yes,
yeah.
commercially.
For someone that's never heard of a vertical farm, how do you describe something like this?
Singapore is a landscape, so we don't have much land to produce vegetables. Singaporeans, we stay in a HDB flat, means it's vertically. So you look at why vegetable agriculture cannot go vertically. Currently, our system is using the hydraulics, using water, make it this tower rotating. So plant can go up, get enough sunlight, come out, get nutrients and water. So, and the water is a sim water, make it rotating. There's a sim water also given to the plant. And the water will be keep on recycle, use it. So far, we know how to change the water at all.
So far, you've not changed it at all?
Yes,
wow.
Yes.
That's quite something, given that this farm's been operating for 3 years. These rotating shelves effectively increase the land surface area by a factor of 10, meaning this vertical farm can produce 2 tons of vegetables in a single day.
Meet Nai Pai, king of the veggies. It's a beauty, isn't it? Oh, look, there's a weed. That's the first weed I've seen in the entire place. This is to attract the pests.
Inside, yeah.
And then they're stunned on these bars, but there's none in there. I mean,
means that the pest management is good. Then even the pest, after we catch them, we are feed to our fish.
This is brilliant. So this is floating. This is
yes, completely floating.
Completely floating. Jack, why have you created a floating greenhouse in a pond?
We need pond to keep water for our vegetable. So what I do, if you build more pond, actually less area for our system. So what I do, can we build a pond, at the same time we have a plant. So what the concept is, it's the same area, we have two production.
One harvest of fish for every 6 harvests of vegetables.
Correct.
The fish are feeding the vegetables.
Yes.
And the vegetables are in a sense feeding the fish.
Can feed the fish. Yeah.
So the trimmings from the vegetables are actually going to feed the fish as well.
And using is the same size of the land, but have 2 products.
Wow.
Yes.
Being located within the city, these high-density aquaponics setups are also saving energy on transportation and storage. So it's little wonder that Sky Greens have garnered widespread interest throughout Asia, as well as with the Singaporean government, who continue to support the development of the technology. I've come back to the Woha offices to learn more about their living buildings and what lies ahead for Asia's greenest city.
This project, for instance, when it's fully grown, will have 11 times the site area as green area.
So why go to all this extra effort to swaddle your buildings in plants?
A huge one in a hot climate like Singapore is that plants are the only thing that when the sunlight falls on it, they don't heat up. They actually take that energy and use it for their chemical processes of building carbohydrates and things. So the calculation for Singapore, for instance, is that before the city was built, Singapore was 5 degrees cooler. And all that heat ends up being converted into fossil fuel use as people use air conditioners to cool the space and throw even more heat out into the city. If substantial plant cover even reduced Singapore by 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, the energy saving for the entire country would be, you know, in the billions of dollars over years. A lot of the argument people have there, oh, so much of the city's built, you know, it doesn't matter, 1 or 2 buildings, what difference can they make? But if one building can compensate for 10 other sites not having any green, you can see that just by doing selective injection of these kind of buildings through the city, you can already create a statistically significant amount of green in the city.
Can you see potentially in the future where you could actually see some of this area providing a food supplement? Because we know that Singapore is so reliant on food imports.
Yeah. We've sort of done generation 1, which is providing a lot of planting and achieving these plot ratios. I think generation 2 is that, okay, now we have this, what can we do with it? And that's where I think there's anything you do on land on the ground, you can start thinking, does it make sense to do that up high on a building? So, you know, food, or we're also very interested in ecosystems. You know, can we make it not just decorative, but can we make it very biologically productive? We can, like in our lifetime, how many buildings can we build? This is something that needs lots of people doing it. And it needs rethinking at the urban planning level and at whole city visioning.
So we've come up to the Skyville at Dawson, which is one of Richard's public housing projects, and it does feel great. I mean, the planting design and this shady canopy of solar panels, it feels lovely, but I mean, looking out at the view, it's pretty terrifying. It's not just the density, but it's the number of housing and building development projects, and it's this kind of armada of oil tankers and shipping containers that stretches to the horizon in almost every direction. But when you start to look at that horizon through Richard's eyes and you see the potential for a rooftop aquaponics setup, a vertical forest, you know, you start to have hope. But for us to make that future a reality, then it means getting the grassroots engaged. It means that Choi Fen and Ka Hui and all those guys are getting things going from the ground up. And it means they're meeting the planners and the policymakers halfway if we're going to see cities that are truly sustainable.
As our metropolises continue to expand, we are being pushed to explore more radical solutions to the environmental costs of city living. In Taiwan, a French architecture firm is constructing a garden tower which will absorb 130 tons of carbon dioxide each year. While local government in Washington, D.C. is utilising the high footfall in the city centre to generate energy kinetically for lighting, using a technology called PaveGen. And in South Korea, Songdo has been dubbed the smartest city on the planet. Developers have built the world's largest pneumatic waste collection system. Citywide recycling is projected to reach 76% by 2020. Innovations are there. If there was support and funding to adopt them widely, there's a chance the world's metropolises could become sustainable. And with so many of us living in cities, the environmental impact could be huge.